No, I'm not Beth Knox. Beth is on the way. But until Beth gets here, I'm going to be pinch hitting. And so I'm Jeff Borick, a past president of Seattle 4, and it's my pleasure to kick off today's meeting. We like to start our meetings with song. And so I'm going to, with no further ado, introduce Bill and Jevin for our musical number. Gentlemen.
Not bad for a past president.
Never presided over a meeting.
It takes every chance he can get. When Jevin and I were assigned to lead today, we thought we'd honor our main speaker, Bernie, with a song from American musical theater. We're getting geared up here. We were scheduled to meet at the Westin, and apparently one member did not get the memo that had changed. And we're always happy to be here at the Rainier Club, but alas, there's no piano. So we had to come up with a song that could be sung with a guitar. Can anyone recall a song from American musical theater that was written specifically for the guitar? Anyone? Edelweiss, right. Edelweiss was not only written to be performed by Captain Von Trapp on the guitar, but it's also cited by many critics as one of the 50 best musical songs of all time. Not surprisingly, the song has become popular in Austria, especially in Salzburg, where the Sound of Music is set. But it's not, as some folks now mistakenly believe, the Austrian national anthem. Let's sing together. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, every morning you greet me, small and white, clean and bright. You look happy to meet me, blossom of snow, may you bloom and grow, bloom and grow forever. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, bless my homeland forever. A little louder this time. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, every morning you greet me, small and white, clean and bright. You look happy to meet me, blossom of snow, may you bloom and grow, bloom and grow forever. Edelweiss, Edelweiss, bless my homeland forever. Oh, sorry, what's it doing?
Good afternoon. I'm Marsha Matisse. I'll be giving the inspiration today. Being the new month of May, I am bringing a blessing for the month of May. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you find comfort. May you have strength. May you have courage. Everybody take a deep breath. Thank you. Breathe out. May you find healing. May you have peace. May you have joy. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be blessed today and always. And all God's Rotarians said, amen. Thank you.
All right. Well, we always love to recognize our guests and visitors with us today. And I've got a list in front of me. And if I mispronounce your name, I apologize because I didn't get a chance to rehearse it. But let me start by welcoming Bernie Griffin and her husband who are here with us today. And while Beth collects herself, I'll keep moving. There's a short program speaker with us, Reyes Bouillon. Reyes, are you here? Welcome. We have Mary Cypers, a potential member, a guest of Reyes. So welcome. Reagan Jural, visiting from London, along with Dr. Ramia Jural. Please stand and let us welcome you. Dr. Nicole Wazwi, professor at the UW School of Medicine, guest of John Bridge and potential member. Welcome. We've got Vanessa Lee, a scholarship student, Lucy Wood, Iman Janu, and Gabriella Michelin. Please, let's welcome all four of them. And again, my apologies on the pronunciations. And with that, I'm going to stop pretending I'm Beth and welcome her to the podium. Everyone welcome Beth.
Yay. Thank you, Jeff. You're awesome for stepping in. And Laurel James has got to her bus stop. Okay, so thanks for your patience. All right, we're going to have our short program next, and I am actually going to turn it over to Mark Wright, who is going to introduce our short program speaker. Past president, Rotary Seattle past president Mark Wright launched a podcast called Beats Working, Winning the Game of Work. It's a platform dedicated to changing how people look at work, not just as a means to an end, but as a source of purpose and fulfillment. Please welcome Mark Wright.
Come on, Grace. Beth, thank you. Beth, thank you. Fellow Rotarians, good afternoon. Yeah, I've gone to the Westin before, and the valet guys look at me and nobody else is there. And yeah, that's when the meeting's here. So Ray's and his wife Jessica are members of our club. And my introduction to Ray's happened when I was president of this club, and my programs VP Hamilton McCullough saw a piece on, yes, Hamilton McCullough saw a piece on CBS Sunday Morning about this guy. And he called me, he said, you've got to look at this story, and we've got to get this guy out to Seattle to speak to our club. How many are familiar with Ray's story? Just, I'd love a show of hands. Maybe a little under half. So in the days after 9/11, Ray's was working at a convenience store in Dallas, right? And a white supremacist came in with a shotgun who had already killed 2 brown people, and he was looking to kill another. And he asked Ray's, "Where are you from?" And before he could answer, he shot Ray's in the face with a shotgun. After multiple surgeries, he's okay, thank God. But that was the odyssey that started Ray's movement toward forgiveness and peace and reconciliation as his life calling. So that's all I'm going to say about Ray's at this point. We're going to get more into that later, but Ray's, tell us a little bit more about what we're going to see on the screen. And if we could get some help getting the shades down, that would be awesome. I deputize anyone in the room to jump up, and thank you. So Ray's, go ahead. Oh yeah, and if we can get the lights, can we get the lights turned out too? Thank you. So as the lights are being turned down, Race, why don't you set us up?
Thank you, Mark. I know what it feels like to wake up each day with the wounds of hate. Seeing the rise of hate-fueled violence in America, I decided to get to the bottom of it. And my friend and co-producer, Mark Fraser, who is a multi-Emmy award-winning filmmaker, and myself set out to meet people to share their lived experiences, painful experience, and also their journeys to peace. We spoke with people from both sides, survivors, victims' families, and also perpetrators of hate-fueled violence. And we traveled almost 17,000 miles all over North America and captured those stories. Let's take a look at the trailer of this documentary. I always wanted to understand more about where the hate comes from and why. What can we do to get beyond that destructive anger that leads to violence? And in many cases, to death. Since I was gunned down, I've been searching for answers. Why people hate and hurt others.
They were celebrating the fact that the rally was over. That's when he drove his car into the crowd. Just miss her.
Following breaking news right now in Orange County, where Orlando police have confirmed there's been a shooting in
It's
downtown.
just awful. I just cannot comprehend how this world with so much hatred.
The hardest journey and the hardest compassion that I had to learn was the compassion for myself, because I didn't feel I deserved it. I'd done so many horrible things.
I remember those words vividly. F you, Asian, you don't belong here.
And she said, Chris, your mom got shot. My mom was at Bible study. He was trying to split this country up, start a race war. I'm just trying to teach love.
A person does not wake up one day and think, I'm going to go out and kill a bunch of people for whatever. A journey has brought them to that place.
My phone kept pinging, and you still never imagined that.
It's a wake-up call that allows us to do different. That gives my mother's death meaning.
We all have a duty. And the only way to do that is showing that love for ourselves, not to what is easy. And you've got to be strong enough to help turn that crowd around.
He said forgiveness are out there. Let's go find it.
I felt power, and hate was just another part of the rush. When I experienced kindness from people that I was working very hard to hate, it drove home how wrong I was.
Pain without purpose is pointless, but purpose driven from pain is the most powerful. This hate is affecting all of us, not just the ones who are victimized, not just the perpetrators, but it has a communal impact. And this communal impact is calling on us to address that.
I should say, by the way, Race has been invited by the president to the White House a couple of times. Last September, he took part in the first ever United We Stand Summit at the invitation of Joe Biden. He just got back from a trip. He was invited once again and just got back this morning from DC, where he had extensive meetings with the White House. They understand race and they understand what he's trying to do, and that's why they keep having him back. Race, you first spoke to our club in July of 2017. The reason that I wanted you to come is after seeing that story on CBS Sunday Morning, I was just blown away by the power of your story and your example. You have lived the idea that love and forgiveness is the only way to conquer hate. And that guy in the trailer, the former white supremacist, said when people that he hated showed him kindness, it showed him how wrong he was. So you also forgave the guy who tried to kill you. It was a process of 10 years. Ray's fought for his life on death row unsuccessfully. On the day he was executed, he was a transformed human being. He actually said he was sorry and that he loved you. So to make this film, you and filmmaker Mark Fasia traveled all over North America. I want to know, first of all, Race, why you felt compelled that a film, a documentary was something you just had to do.
Well, I mean, one thing I learned from this extensive journey that we all have the power to transform negatives into positives, weaknesses into strength, fear into courage, ignorance into wisdom, and hate into love. But sometimes we just need a little inspiration, a kind word, a gentle touch, a trusted shoulder to lean on, and guidance to discover our inner strength and resilience. And that's the transformation we need to create a culture of empathy, understanding, and forgiveness. And what I also found that there is much more empathy and compassion out there than hate and intolerance.
You've literally sat across from hate groups, active hate groups, really dangerous people. What happens when you show them compassion? And I know that you have a policy of really, truly listening. What happens?
Well, while retribution is needed to uphold law and order in society, but we cannot impose policies and laws to force people to love one another and respect one another as human beings. We have to find ways to build bridges and also listen to each other actively. And we also have to find ways to make each other respectfully uncomfortable. Like, for example, recently I was asked to sit down with the founders of a notorious armed hate groups. It was supposed to be an hour-long conversation, but it ended up 5+ hours. And surprisingly, it ended up with hugs and also invitation to continue the conversation through lunch get-together. And it was possible because I respected their views and thoughts. I listened to them with respect and did not argue with them. I let them talk, and it helped.
Well, the film looks amazingly powerful. I've seen a rough cut of it, and I'm just blown away at the quality. And I hope this starts a conversation nationally, which I think it will, Race. Race and his wife, Jessica, formed a nonprofit called World Without Hate. They're teaching empathy as a skill to school children around the country. I joined the board because I believe in it. They're in the process of finishing the edit on the film. So if you want to talk to Race afterward, he'd be more than happy. He and Jessica would love to engage with you up here. But please give this guy a round of applause for the work that he's doing and the example he's setting. Race, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Race. And Mark, thank you for facilitating that conversation. Race, I really look forward to seeing that documentary. Okay, we're going to move on to our main program now, and Mark is going to come back up to lead a conversation with our featured speaker. But here to introduce that speaker is a lifelong philanthropist and servant leader in the greater Seattle region. And he's a member, has been a member of Seattle 4 Rotary for 45 years. Please welcome to the stage, Carl Benke.
Thank you, Beth. Thank you all. Bernie is here with her husband, an award-winning actor, Sean. Bernie is a Washingtonian born and raised. She grew up in Walla Walla when Walla Walla was known for wheat fields and not wineries. And the prison was there. That's what we all remembered. Her whole career has been in the arts, mostly in Seattle. She's had a couple of fundraising stints in Los Angeles and in New York. And she's now been with the Fifth Avenue for a little over 20 years. She's been managing director for the last 10 or 10 plus. The one thing that you need to know, especially about Bernie, is she's just a nice woman. Bernie.
Thank you, Carl.
Hold on, Carl. There you go.
Okay, thank you. I think I'm going to take the lead and say, well, thank you, Carl. Thank you, Mr. Benke. I want to just say something about Carl. It wouldn't be without Carl and his family. The Fifth Avenue Theater wouldn't be here. And so we honor you and your family's legacy. Thank you, Carl. And now, before we get started, I have a quick intro to a little video we're going to show. And it made Ken Grant very nervous that it's a whole 6 minutes. Makes him very nervous. And I know it's cutting into my time. This is the Fifth Avenue Theater's love letter to Seattle. So let's go ahead and watch that.
So you see, with this calculation, joy is clearly achieved by multiplying music, song, and dance, and then we carry that over and we multiply the Y factor, which equals eighth notes, by the power of N, which equals octaves. Really? And then we add in the square root of acting powered by...
We've been over this and over it. I'm never going to get it.
No, it's easy. See, we just carry the Y to the nth degree and then factor in the square root and the answer...
Excuse me, Cayman. This is...
boring. Exciting.
Needlessly confusing.
Exactly. We want to spread joy and sing some songs.
And I'm showing you exactly how that works using this algorithm.
We got rhythm. We got music. Who could ask for any algorithm?
We just want to get out there and sing.
See the sights and spread Fifth Avenue musical theater joy throughout our amazing city.
You do understand. That is what we are doing. We are the Fifth Avenue Theater Telegram team, and we are going to get out into Seattle and deliver a smile and a song.
Getting out, taking in all this town has to offer. Checking out all the sights that make Seattle more than just a spot on the map. So I get out of your seats when we hit the streets. Come and join us. Come and join us. Golden and green with a dash of caffeine and a smile. Seattle, Seattle, Seattle. We're a winner, baby, and we can prove it. In the past, and we are not looking back. No sense in looking behind. So by your comfort zone, that you'll never find. Come and join us, Seattle. This is my city. This is my city. In the city. I'll be cheer for the hearts and the crying. For big musical shows and our theater is raising the bar. Let's start to survive. This is my city. When the shows are born, in my city. I have the way we're in fashion. What's the see the lights one time. Sometimes will be nobody holding us down. Doing our it's this beautiful theater. The truth of the show. Come and join us. Come and join us. This is my city. This is my city. It's rising sun, makes it rising sun. You belong, you're part of the sun. This is our city.
Isn't that fun?
Isn't that great?
When I asked Bernie why she wanted to show that video, she said, well, Mark, it just shows what the Fifth is all about. And for decades, the Fifth has brought joy into the lives of this city. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a great video, and thanks to everybody who took part of that. And I just want to say, Ray, thank you so much for your portion of this program. It was inspiring, and you talked about building bridges. And that's what the arts do as well, as far as coming together in a communal setting and experiencing something as an audience. And it's learning about what we have in common. And musicals are kind of deceiving because it all looks like fun and games. And then underneath it, if there's a show like West Side Story that talks about the divisions in our community and how we come together and either deal with them or not, so it's, I just was very moved by your experience. So thank you.
Yeah. Art makes us look at ourselves, doesn't it, Bernie? But I wanted to ask you, we talked about this a few days ago. It seems like in our society, we see art and the arts, especially in schools, as an extra, as a thing that we'll do if we have enough money. And I've never quite understood that. I mean, I get it, but I've never understood it. Why does our society kind of view the arts as something we can do if we have extra money left over?
Yeah, I know that's a narrative that we continue to, kind of fight against, I think. And I think too, in the school systems, we're seeing more cuts to arts and culture. So we look at a lot of the times the larger regional organizations in our city, like the Fifth and the Symphony and the Opera and the Ballet and the Art Museum, coming in and filling that void, which is really important. And this is about accessibility for everyone. And, I don't know if I remember the first time bringing little kids to the children's theater and having them watch what's going on and have an experience that is outside of themselves that just teach us. We have a program at the Fifth called the Rising Star Project, where after we just finished it from with our production of Into the Woods. So 2 weeks after the professional production was done, a group of high school students from across the state performed and was in the pit and called the show with our union staff. We're dressers, hair, wardrobe, makeup, fundraising, marketing, the whole enchilada. And it is about the product because there is going to be a show, and we did 3 performances and we had great audiences, but it's about the process and understanding what that process is in a professional environment, what the expectations are to do something like we do, because it's about, it's about what makes us human and what speaks to our core, what gives us compassion. And it's also, an opportunity to say, you can get a job in this and work. That's what I did. I had I had a vision that I would be on stage. I was a theater major in college, and then life took me in a different direction. And I was able to get into a line of work that I always had a job because I love you, Sean, but I'm married to an actor who doesn't work all the time. And so it worked well. So, it's a win-win.
I'm glad that I'm not the only one that hears, I love you, but. That's fantastic. And what I think I didn't get, Bernie, until we really talked a few days ago was that the arts is an ecosystem. I mean, it really is. And that ecosystem is just as important as what happens on stage, right?
Yeah, it is. And talking about, I mean, we can talk numbers as far as the ecosystem and the economic impact. I mean, I think for those of us in Seattle, if we just take a minute, and I use this because I did move to Los Angeles and could not believe for a city of 7 million people, there were 3 regional theaters. There was the Griffin, the Taper, and Pasadena Playhouse. There was not a ballet. There was a Philharmonic. Okay, all of that compared to what we have here in Seattle. So the regional theaters, the Performing Arts Organization, which is the Paramount, the symphony, the ballet, the opera, the art museum, and then the mid-size organization and the fringe organizations. And it is, to your point, a very fragile ecosystem, and that it takes all of us to have this robust city. So someone like a Sean Griffin can live and work here in Seattle. They can piece together a season's worth of work at the Fifth Avenue and the Rep and the Children's Theater or maybe ACT, and they can stay here and not move to Los Angeles or New York. But you know, the number of folks that are brought into the downtown core between the Art Museum, ACT, the Fifth Avenue, the Moore, the Paramount, and Town Hall is 2 million people every year, driving the economic engine of downtown. And that is more than the Mariners, the Sonics, the Kraken, and the Seahawks combined. Yeah, little unknown factoid.
So we talked about the importance of arts in schools, Bernie. I'd like to know from this audience, who was exposed to the arts? Maybe you played an instrument, maybe you started singing, maybe you started painting, but who was exposed to the arts as a kid? And is it something that you carry on today, either through appreciation or participation? Yeah, isn't that great? I was that kid who would not stop tapping on stuff. I was a drummer. I was born a drummer. And I've continued that, and that started in school. And I'm in September. I'm going to a drum camp in Germany to study with one of the top drummers in the world.
I know. I saw your setup.
I'm so
on video.
I'm so excited. Can we talk about drumming for the next 20 minutes?
Take it away, Mark. Go ahead.
I get that a lot in my life too. Next topic. I want to go back to your childhood. So you grew up in Walla Walla. What turned on the light for you in terms of like, when did you see a production and say, wow, I want to try that as an actor?
Well, I think, you know, as a kid, I always say this is, you know, musical theater is the gateway drug, right? It's usually your first exposure to the arts. It's either you went to see a brother or sister in a show, or your folks took you or something like that. I saw at Whitman College, they have a theater there called the Harper Joy Theater. And I saw a production of Annie Get Your Gun. And then I went to school at St. Martin's down in Lacey. And that's where, you know, as far as the performing part of it, that I was cast in all the shows and all of that. And then, like I said, life kind of took me in a different direction in my 20s. And I was able to, my first job in Seattle was at the Seattle Rep. And that was in the mid 80s. And I was able to find a pathway to a career to support the art and the artists and the technicians and the designers and the staff in a very meaningful way. And it's been my honor and privilege to be a part of the ecosystem here in Seattle. So there at the Rep, and I was fortunate enough to be at the Rep when they won the regional Tony for Outstanding Theater. Woohoo. And then was also able to be a part of the team. I saw Larry Granite here, be part of the team that helped build Benaroya Hall. And Larry worked with us on the opening ceremonies that practically killed us. But we're here, Larry. So we're here and we survived. So and then to be able to come back to the Fifth and start their first ever fundraising department in 2001. And then it's been just a real joy to be a part of the Fifth and a part of the ecosystem, and to be able to be of service.
It's interesting that you transitioned into fundraising.
Mm-hmm.
What's the secret to fundraising? Because it's a real art, isn't it? I mean, it's not just twisting arms. It's really deep relationships.
I know. That's what I was gonna say.
Carl's arm is
Carl does have
really sore.
I know. There's a few people in this room that I have those. You should probably ask them. It's, I think it's a part of really, for me, there's all sorts of different ways to fundraise and all that. It is like, I very much enjoy people and telling the story of the Fifth Avenue Theater and, kind of threading together that civic minded pride of Seattle and what we do at the Fifth and bringing people into the organization and understanding. And, for this group, and thank you, there are so many subscribers and patrons and donors in this room. So thank you for your service to the Fifth. But, I think for a place like the Fifth Avenue Theater, we are a producing house. So when you see a show like Sweeney Todd or Into the Woods or any of the shows that you see at the Fifth, it's from the ground up. So it is artists and technicians, creative teams, designers, musicians who live, work, and play right here in Seattle. So we make it from scratch. So we start rehearsing, for Sweeney Todd, we started rehearsing about 6 weeks ago in our rehearsal hall. Then we move upstairs and then we bring the orchestra and then we bring the audience. And then off we go. And then compared to our friends, and they are our great friends at the Paramount, who is a touring house. So those shows come in and tour, and they're fantastic shows. They come in and tour, and then they go someplace else. And to the audience member, they look the same. So how do you make that distinction? And I just did. So there you go.
Yeah, I had no idea that, I just thought it was kind of plug and play like the other theaters, but no, building it from the ground up is pretty cool. Can you shed some light? You've got about a $30 million a year budget. Can you break down the budget for me, where the money comes from and then how it's spent?
Yeah, it comes, the three-legged stool of revenue at the Fifth Avenue Theater is subscriptions. We're in subscription renewal season, just saying. We got a good season next year. And then single ticket, group sales, that kind of thing, and then philanthropy. And, building up, making sure that all of those legs of the stool are operating at a high level so that we can continue on. And during the pandemic, we closed down for 2 years and then started up again. We'd never done that before, us as well as the entire sector. And I want you to know that your sector here in Seattle is very collaborative, and we talk to each other all the time, and we share information and resources. And I think that is unique to this city. There's not a competitive edge to this. We are all in this together. And whether you're a staff member or a board member or a volunteer, I think everybody would say the same. So that's where the money comes from. And then as far as where it goes into people's pockets. It goes into people's pockets. 70% of that goes into, we work with 6 unions in our house. And then the only part of the workforce that is not union is our administrative staff. And so it's making sure that we can pay the people what they are. We can never pay the people exactly what they're worth because we can't. But it's making sure that we're competitive within the sector.
What are you most proud of, Bernie, when it comes to the Fifth? And I also want to know what's the best show you ever saw at the Fifth, hands down.
What I'm most proud of the Fifth is, there is, I think I know I keep talking about Carl, but Carl's been on the board of the ballet for years and years, and folks who are on the board of other organizations like the Fifth and Raymond at Cornish, and we all, it's like there's probably about 6 weeks of the year you don't worry about money. And that's maybe around Christmas, if the holiday show's going, but really it's about 6. So there's a lot, there's a lot of and I have a great partner at the Fifth, our producing artistic director, Bill Berry, and we are hand in glove in all decisions. And we always like to say every artistic decision is a financial decision, and every financial decision is an artistic decision. But when I go into the house, into the theater, and watching people come out of the theater and knowing that I had a small piece in someone's life that for a couple hours, they forgot about maybe some troubles, or they learned something, or they had an experience that was truly worlds away from the everyday. And that's mine. And I'll tell you, probably one of the most thrilling experiences I had at the Fifth was really, really early on. And You know, the fifth, in addition to recreating classics, like we had a Sondheim celebration with Into the Woods and Sweeney, we also create new works. So we have produced 25 new musicals, 10 of which have gone on to New York, garnering 14 Tonys. Yeah, so be proud that you did that. You did that. And I think the very first night of the very first preview of Hairspray, and nobody knew anything. I mean, it was John Waters, and it's like, oh, that weird guy who did those weird movies. That's who John Waters and Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman, who are now household names in New York and have many shows represented on Broadway. This was their first show, and to be there on their very first preview and go, wow, something that you've never ever seen before. And you knew from that very first time that it was something cool.
The other thing that I love about art is it makes us feel. That's what I love about. I don't know about you guys. I'm a little weird.
That's okay, Mark.
I've cried listening to music before. Like, music's so beautiful, and it freaks my wife out. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, it's so beautiful." But the theater can do the same thing. I mean, it's amazing. I know that some of you have some questions out there, so I'd love to go to some questions right now. If you have a question for Bernie, I know a lot of you have deep ties with Bernie, so raise your hand. Ken is going to be on the microphone.
I turned it down.
Oh, I know.
Bernie,
I really admire how the fifth has helped to sustain and rebuild, the infrastructure downtown. I'm curious about what your experience has been with the school programs where you bring the kids in and help to build demand, for life, for that line of work.
Thanks, Jimmy. I think that, we do several things at the fifth as far as education. I mean, there's a lot of teaching artists and things like that in the classroom, but there's also, we have the educational touring program where folks get into a van and they tour around the state of Washington, and they get out and they do a 45-minute show. And that's, a lot of time that's folks' little kids' first experience. And like I was talking about the Rising Star Project, what we found coming back from the pandemic, it was much harder this year because there was such a turnover in teachers and the folks within the districts. So that the bandwidth that we have on those kind of programs, you guys all know this, everything's just harder, since coming back from the pandemic, and it's worth it, but it just takes a little bit more effort.
Hey, Bernie, got a quick question. What do you see as the vision in the future for the fifth?
Oh, I see great things for the future of the fifth. I think that, but I will say this is, the sector was blessed with a high level of federal support during the pandemic. It was the greatest infusion of federal support since FDR in this sector. And if we hadn't had that, I don't know if we'd be here. I don't know if we'd be here. And so, that money is running out. And so we just, as always, this has never been easy. It's never been a slam dunk. It's always been, oh my God, how are we going to do that? And how are we going to do this? And I am an optimist. And I think the struggle is going to be always about, it's not an expense. We just tell Carl, we had a finance and executive committee meeting to pass next year's budget or to seek approval on it. And we all survived. So that was good. We always say the finance committee is where artistic dreams go to die. So that's a true statement too. But it's going to take, it's never an expense problem. It really isn't. This creative folks are the most creative and the most strategic in how money is spent because it's precious. And it's always ensuring that the revenue is there to support the work that we want to do on stage, because you can, and listen, we've all tried it. We can't cut our way to expense. You come to the Fifth Avenue Theater, and there are expectations, and they're correct expectations, that there's going to be 20 folks in the orchestra pit. There's going to be 30 folks on stage. There's going to be 30 more folks backstage, 30 folks front of house. It's a big operation. And so we need to ensure that we continue to fund. And that's not just for the Fifth, it's for the whole sector.
Well, Give Big is going on right now. You can go to your computer and give to the Fifth Avenue Theater with no problem at all. And the one thing you didn't remark on, but I know that you're conscious of this all the time is your wonderful space. It's incredible space, and I brought visitors from China there time and time again, and they're just blown away. For those of you that aren't aware of this, it's like a scale model of the throne room in the Imperial Palace in Beijing. And they look at it and can't believe it. And you are the stewards of that space, and you've done an incredible job.
Well, thank you. And thank you to our partners at the University of Washington. They are our landlords. We sit on the original campus of the UW, the Metropolitan Track, and they have been great partners. We've been dating since 1926, and it's still going okay. Yeah.
I'm going to give John the last question.
Well, thank you a lot, Bernie. This is just really great. But I think everybody should know, if they don't already, that you're retiring this year. And so, given that and all you've done for the fifth, what is going to happen after you leave? And what are you going to be doing in retirement? You're too young for retirement.
Oh, you silver-tongued fox, John Bridge. Well, I'm still around. Sean and I are not going anywhere. We've got a great little spot in the market where we've been for a long time. And I look forward to, continue to serve the sector, continue to be of assistance for the fifth. Thank you for that. And I'm blessed that, I think this is a true statement, but after 40 years primarily serving the sector in Seattle and the last 21 at the fifth, to be able to leave when folks still want me there is about as good as it gets. So thank you, everybody, for allowing me the honor and the privilege to be a part of the Fifth Avenue. It's a blessing. Thank you.
All right, Bernie Griffin. Thank you so much, Bernie.
Bernie, I just want to personally give my thank you as well for your years of service and the gift that you have given our city and the gift that you've given to Rotary by being one of us. So want to share some flowers. Oh, thank you. Thanks. And some Bones chocolates. Thank you so much, Bernie and Mark. Thank you for leading both of those great programs. And Bernie, additionally, as you likely know, we are also giving 600 servings of healthy produce in your name for being with us today. So we appreciate that. Want to also acknowledge our sponsors of Rotary. We're very fortunate to have a number of sponsors. Our gold sponsor is longtime Rotary supporter Bob Alexander. We also have Joel Farrell with Morgan Stanley. We have Dominic Musafia, Seattle Divorce Options. Hopefully no one needs him, but he's there if you do. We have Jacobson Jarvis, Certified Public Accountants, much safer partner there. Matt Bretlin with NetTech Pro Bono IT Services. I use Matt myself for my IT services. And of course, our tech support in the back of the room, Live Oak AV. And next up, we're going to hear from VP of Membership Engagement, John Steckler, who's going to share some announcements that are coming up. And then after that, we'll hear from our Prince of Programs, Ken Grant, about programming.
Sorry, it takes me a while to get to the podium these days. Okay, quick update on events that are coming up. First slide, please. There we go. Well, Rotarians are one thing, if not nimble. How about this? We're talking about the Fifth Avenue, something a little bit different. How about tonight? It's not too late to come up with our special tickets to the Fifth Avenue, Sweeney Todd's performance tonight only. Pick any ticket, any place in the house, the best ticket in the house. Tell them you're with Rotary and you will get 30% off tonight's performance. And if somebody else is not nimble, it is Doug Seto who will accept your invitation for the dinner at the WAC. It's a no-host dinner. But you still could get in tonight for a special evening. Next up, next slide. Yes, the Coast Guard tour is still available. We still have tickets. It's on the 13th. It's at 11 a.m. You'll meet down at the Alaskan Way. But most important, it's about half full. We still have seats in the Coast Guard response boat. That's a once in a lifetime opportunity. So make sure you sign up for that. Next up. The convention center, the tour of the convention center, which I mentioned last week, is already sold out and a large waiting list. So we're trying to see about getting another date for that. Next up. Yes, in June, there are 2 great events in June. There's a tour of the Pike Place Market. It's a behind the scenes guided tour. You'll get to meet a lot of the shop people, and it is a food tour. You start at 4 o'clock, and I guarantee you will not want dinner that night. You'll be tasting all kinds of goodies. I think there's 7 different places you'll be able to go. And also announcing, there's a lot going on down at the waterfront. Bob Dunnigan from the Ivers will be taking us on a guided tour of the waterfront in June to show us all that's going on down at the waterfront. So you don't want to miss that as well. There's a lot of great opportunities. Check your weekly newsletter for places to RSVP, prices, if there are prices, if there's a fee to pay, or check your Rotary website. So I'm going to turn it over to the Prince of Programs. He might be, oh, he's right here, right behind me, Ken Grant.
Okay, first announcement, only 2 months left of me. Oh, that's funny if you're an Australian. All right. Only 3 people got that joke. That's pretty funny. All right, may we see a slide? I guess I would do. Oh, so next week we have, speaking of the convention center, the head of Visit Seattle. She will be chatting about the convention center as well as tourism in our city, along with the head of the Washington Wine Auction. If you don't know anything about the Washington Wine Auction and you're in the philanthropic business, you should probably watch this. She's very, very cool. Week after that, we're celebrating Asian American Heritage Month. Is Yacenta in the room? Yacenta's put together an insanely cool, crazy, like I couldn't figure out how to get these people on stage, but Yacenta did. So make sure I would really recommend that you're here for this one. It's going to be crazy. All right, next one. And then June is Pride Month. So the end of the June, we've got one of the fellas who put together Pride Fest. As a matter of fact, not one of them. He put together Pride Fest. And then just in case you had been living under a rock, Seattle Kraken. Really? Come on, they won last night. I lost a lot of money on that. Oh, I am. They will be in the house too, so that's really cool. We didn't think we'd get them, but we've got them. Bernie, you almost made me cry at the end of this damn thing. You have been a rock solid in my life for a long time. Shut up. Who was going to say? Oh, Race, thank you so much. It's been really interesting to watch your journey inside of the journey, and then I'll come up with the video. Jeff, thank you for being a pinch hitter. Doug, thank you for putting the Fifth Avenue thing together. And I don't know if you would agree with me, but I don't know what this club would do without Mark Wright. Bam.
That is a great wrap up there. Thank you, Ken. And we're actually counting down the days that it is going to make us cry when it's your final year as program chair. Okay, so as Ken just alluded to, there is so much to talk about in sports right now, but a city with a team that's making a run in the Stanley Cup playoffs will always be the story. So highlights from just from the Kraken. So last weekend, Oliver Bjorkstrand scored 2 early goals for the Kraken, and goalie Philip Grubauer saved his best for Game 7. Then they survived a frantic finish as the Kraken won 3 of 4 on the road to win the first series over the Colorado Avalanche in that playoffs. Now, 15 different players scored goals in that series, and that goalie Grubauer was outstanding, leading the team to its first ever playoff series win. That's pretty awesome. Now, the Kraken scored first in every game and maintain the pace and physical play the entire series. There is no rest in hockey playoffs, though, as Game 1 of second round was last night. And after a furious run with 4 goals by 4 different players, the Kraken led 4-2 after 1 period. Dallas stayed in the game, however, with a veteran player scoring all 4 of their goals. And they forced the game into overtime, where then Yanni Gourde became the 5th Kraken to score, ending the game 12 minutes into overtime period. So Seattle has now won 4 of 5 on the road in the playoffs and holds a 1-0 lead heading into game 2 this Thursday in Dallas at 6:30 p.m. Okay. Now we're going to move on to other sports. Baseball, the Mariners are scuffling through a 3-team road trip right now and hope to gain ground in the standings while playing an Oakland squad that has won only 6 of their first 30 games. So we hopefully will do well. The M's won 2-1 last night with a fantastic debut from a rookie starting pitcher, Bryce Miller, and a late home run from AJ Pollock, plus a game-winning 2-out double from Jared Kelenic. Now, the M's are 4th in the American League West and play 2 more in Oakland before hosting the AL West rival Houston this weekend. Yes, right? We all know. So, Seattle Thunderbirds lost to Kamloops last night for their first loss in the playoffs, but they still hold a 2-1 lead heading into Game 4 at Kamloops on Thursday. Now, our XFL Sea Dragons season did end last weekend. They lost to the DC Defenders in the North Division Championship. Meanwhile, the Sounders played to a scoreless draw at Real Salt Lake and sit at the top of the Western Conference standings. The Yolo Reign played to a 2-2 tie at Racing Louisville, and they're 2nd in the NWSL. The Seawolves, a rugby team, dominated the Dallas Jackals 61-19. And they sit 2nd place in the West. But it's not all just those kinds of team sports. We've got the boating community, right? What's up this weekend? All week, they've been gearing up for opening day and will be out in force on Saturday for the parade and crew races in Montlake Cut. Now you are up to speed on all things Seattle sports. Our meeting is adjourned.